Good morning. Today is Monday, Chof Vov Shvat Tavshin Daled. We are in Sefer Mamorim Tavshin Yud Aleph Tavshin Yud Beis, in the Mamar of Purim Tavshin Yud Beis, Layehudim Hoysa Oira, and we are on page Reish Chof Zayin Ois Beis. The Rebbe asked why, concerning Purim, are the two main aspects connected to Purim, Torah and Simcha. Right? In the pasuk it says Layehudim Hoysa Oira v'Simcha v'Sasam V'Kar. 4 expressions. Oira refers to Torah, Simcha refers to Yom Tov, Sasam refers to Milah, circumcision, and Yikar refers to Tefillin. And when it comes to celebrating Purim, the celebration is connected mainly to the idea of Torah, because Megillah is part of Torah, became part of Torah, it is part of Torah. Purim is the time when Matan Torah was reaffirmed, as it were, as the Talmud says, Kimu v'kim Layehudim. They accepted upon it, they fulfilled that which they accepted already. They've taken away that great complaint that you can have against, that one can, the big excuse that one can have, because of the fact that the giving of the Torah was in a state of being forced, so to speak, because Hashem, at least on the surface, Hashem held Mount Sinai over their heads and made the Eden accept the Torah. Chassidus, of course, explains that the idea of holding over the Mount Sinai was the idea of Hashem overwhelming the Jewish people with love. It was such a tremendous revelation of godliness that they had no choice but to accept the Torah. But the point is still the same, that it wasn't by their own choice. Whereas in the time of Purim, it was such a dark time. There was no revelation of godliness, and the Yidden nevertheless stood in a state of Mesiras Nefesh. The Rebbe doesn't explain it in this Maimer, but in other Maimarim it's explained in that way. So this was a reaffirmation. Yidden accepted the Torah even from their own perspective, from their own point of view.
What's the makor of holding the mountain? Where does it come from?
The Gemara says in the Shabbos. It says in the pasuk. I forgot the pasuk. If you give me a Gemara Shabbos, we can have a look. It's in Shabbos, Daf Peches Amud Aleph. The Gemara brings a pasuk, and the Amayra says that this pasuk means that Hashem held Mount Sinai over the Eden in such a way. In other words, they were overwhelmed. And another Amayra goes and says, "Mekan meidol rabbi l'raisa." From here, there could be a big excuse for the non-fulfillment of Torah.
Yeah.
But that was in the time of Matan Torah. The time of Haman, they reaffirmed it because it says Kimu v'kim Layehudim. The Yidden have fulfilled that which they accepted. They've reaffirmed their connection to the Torah in a time when there was no revelation of godliness in one way or another, in any way. So that's the emphasis on Torah. And then also the idea of Simcha, where the idea of joy on Purim is to such an extent that it's totally limitless, and you're obligated to celebrate it in a limitless way. Unlike on all other Yom Tovim, all other festivals, although we have an invocation to be b'simcha, joyous, nevertheless that joy is necessarily limited to the extent that Bezdin also has to appoint monitors to see that people do not get too carried away. So why is Purim celebrated mainly in these two areas of Torah and Simcha? Ois Beis, chapter 2, page Reish Chav Zayin. Ubiur hatam. To explain the reason Shemei Purim Yiyu Kayom Mafil Kasher Kol HaMoedim B'Teilim. Another point that Rebbe made was that when the time of Mashiach will come, all other festivals, it says, will become nullified, whereas Purim will continue to be celebrated even then. Why? So that's what the Rebbe explains now. In other words, over there the Rebbe emphasizes, we see that the joy of Purim is so tremendous that it's even relevant and valid when Mashiach comes, unlike the other festivals. That's to emphasize the Simcha of Purim. So now the Rebbe goes in to analyze why indeed Purim will continue to last, even when all the other festivals will not. V'chein hatam, and also the reason Simchas Purim tzricha liyas shalei b'erech yesef b'simchas kol yom tovim, and also to explain the reason why the joy of Purim needs to be limitless, infinitely greater than the joy of all the other festivals. The Hinei Yodua, because it is known, Chassidus, that which is explained in Chassidus, Shekol Inyani Hayomim Tevim Hein B'Chinas Seder Shtalshalus, that all the matters related to the festivals are all within the chain order of creation. They are revelations, great revelations, unusual revelations. That's why they are not weekdays. That's why they are what? Festivals, because a greater level of godliness is revealed. But they are all revelations of what? From which sphere? From within the sphere of Seder Shtalshalus, the chain order of creation. V'lachein, and therefore, la'asid lavai, in the time to come, she'oz yihiyu giluyim shelamayla Seder Shtalshalus. What type of revelations will there be in the time to come? There will be revelations from beyond the chain order of creation. Hazai hagiluyim shebemaydim. Then the revelations of the festivals will be kishraga betira, like a candle, like a lit candle in the sunlight. Which means what? A lit candle in the sunlight is not discernible. It's not visible. This is the meaning when we say that all the festivals will be nullified. Will stop. Will be bottled. Annulled. It doesn't mean she'ena kavana she's batlu kipshuti chas v'shalom. It's not the intention. It's not the intended meaning is not that they will be actually nullified. In other words, that we will no longer celebrate Pesach, God forbid. We will no longer celebrate Sukkot, God forbid, etc. No. Why? Because it is a clear and explicit thing, an explicit rule, B'Torah, one of the 13 principles of faith is that what? That this Torah will not change, and nothing from the Torah becomes annulled. Torah is eternal. That's the eternity of Torah. Eternity means what? Exactly that. That even in the time to come, the Torah as we know it will remain in force and excuse me. Will remain in force, and we will need to fulfill the mitzvahs of the Torah. So what does it mean when the Chazal say that in the time to come, the festivals are destined to become annulled and nullified? So the Rebbe explains it like this: but rather it means that as a result of the revelations of beyond the chain order of creation, which will be revealed when? In the time to come. So because of that, all matters relating to what? To the chain order of creation, included in it is also what? The revelations that take place on all the festivals. They will be extant. They will exist. But in what way, in what form? In a form of bittul. Like a candle in the sunlight. When you light a candle in the sunlight, it's not that the candle doesn't exist, that the flame is not burning. It's just that the flame is not discernible. Right? If you put your hand over the candle, you'll feel the heat. If you put something flammable into the candle, it'll start burning. But because of the great light that shines because of the sun, you can't notice the candle. Similarly, the celebrations of the Yom Tovim, the festivals will take place, but because of the tremendous revelation that there will be then, they will be in a state of bittul, undiscernible. Sorry?
Never heard that before.
Well, here you go. We can also explain this matter in a simple way. Hine, the Rebbe says like this: Hatam haposhut, the simple reason, lahachilik, to the difference. Page Reish at the top. What is the difference between the joy of Yom Tov, the joy that we experience on a Yom Tov, and the situation of a regular weekday and a regular weekday? So the Rebbe says, what's the reason that there is such a difference? The reason is because on weekdays we are occupied with weekday things, with mundane things. Therefore, Bevoy Hazman the Yom Tov, when the time of Yom Tov comes, when the time for a festival comes around, Sheboy yesh chiyuv shvisa, when on the day of a festival we have what? An obligation to rest. What does that mean? Kol malacha le'yasa behem. Levad mimlechas seichel nefesh. All work, all activity, all mundane activity is prohibited to be performed, for us to perform when? On Yom Tov. With the exception of activity work that's related to what? To preparing food. So therefore, azay yesh ne'ina simcha. So there is, that brings joy. Why? Because we're not allowed to occupy ourselves with what? With mundane matters. That is the reason why, that's the simple reason, why on Yom Tov there is simcha. There is joy. When Mashiach will come, every weekday will be like a Yom Tov. Why? So the Rebbe explains, but this is not the case in the time to come. Because in the time to come, even on regular weekdays, all matters relating to mundane activity will not exist. Why? Where do we see this? The Rambam writes, Maimonides writes, that even in times of Mashiach, there will not be all matters of worry and so on and so forth. Why? Because all the needs of the person will be available in abundance, and everybody will be able to occupy themselves and dedicate themselves completely to what? To the learning the Torah of Hashem. As it says in the verse, as the Navi says, that in the time of Mashiach, what's going to be? And strangers will get up, and they will feed your cattle, your sheep, and so on and so forth. So therefore, the concept of resting from mundane activity on Yom Tiv will not be different from the resting, the state of restfulness that we will experience, or detachment from mundane things that will be experienced on a regular weekday. Therefore, there will not be any meaningfulness to the joy of Yom Tiv over and above the meaningfulness of the joy that we will experience in a regular weekday as a result of menucha, of this state of tranquility and peace. If you're on holiday most of the year, or all of the year...
Why are you looking at me?
Sorry?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm looking at everybody. You only experience the pleasure of being on holiday if you come back to a dreary place where the weather is wet and dark and cold, right? You only experience Gan Eden if you leave Gan Eden every once in a while.
Now you know what you're looking at.
It's like the story. It's like the famous story of the Alter Rebbe. There's a story told. I don't know. There's a story told in the name of the Alter Rebbe that the Beis Din Shel Maila once got together, and somebody said in one of the sittings of the Beis Din Shel Maila, the heavenly court, they said the Gehenna has gotten old. You know, it's burning for so many years already. It's gotten old. The walls are charred. It's about to collapse. We need to build a new Gehenna. So somebody came up with a brilliant idea. He said, why do we need to build a new Gehenna? You know something? The Gan Eden is also old already. Let's take the old Gan Eden and turn it into Gehenna, and let's build a new Gan Eden. And that proposition was accepted, and they built a new Gan Eden. It's actually a very, very deep, there's a deep lesson to the story, but it's not for now. But the bottom line is, it's all relative, right? If you're in a state of Gan Eden all the time, you don't appreciate it, right? It's only the contrast. So therefore, in the time when Mashiach comes, in the weekdays, we will also be in a state of melucha, of tranquility, of resting. So the Yom Tov, the Simcha of Yom Tov will be less meaningful. But this is not the case when we talk about the days of Purim. Since the joy of Purim is to the extent that what? To the extent that you do not know the difference between Order Haman and Baruch Mordechai, Christus Haman and Blessed is Mordechai. Which in the vernacular of Chassidus means L'mayla Meseder Shtashlos. It means it's a joy that emanates from a place which is beyond rationality, beyond the internal faculties, the internal attributes, the usual revelations of godliness. It means it's an unusual revelation of godliness. In other words, it's from beyond the chain order of creation. Therefore, even when in the time to come, when everything will be in a state of revelation from beyond the chain order of creation. Nevertheless, lo yisbatel in the Purim, the idea of Purim will not be annulled and nullified. Maybe it'll be less meaningful than it is today because the revelations in general will be from beyond the chain order of creation. But since Purim itself is from beyond the chain order of creation, it'll still take up some place. It'll still be discernible and noticeable. That Gilui, that revelation, even in the time to come when Mashiach will come. We'll continue Mitzvah tomorrow.